continue from where we left off in the previous video. All right, so something does not look right. Yeah, of course. You added a correct class attribute to the P element with a donut as a text, but you have not defined a selector for it. The CSS rule for flavor class already sets the properties you want. Add the dz class as an additional selector to this class. Okay, so what we want to do right now is we want these dz here to have the same style as this, right? In other words, we want the dz to be on the left and the price to be on the right, but then on the same line. And we've already done that for the previous one, so there's no need to rewrite the styles. What we can do is we know that let me put this to the right so that we can see it well. Okay, let me stretch this a little bit. Okay, all right, good. So we know that these p tags, right? The first one has a class of flavor, and the second one has a class of price. Okay, and for this one, the class for the first one is dz, and the class for the second one is price. So for us to be able to add the same styles, the way we do that is to just add a comma like so, and then using the dots, we add dz like so. Now, as you can see, the same style over here is applied to this one. Okay, so on to the next one. Okay, now we just want to repeat this for the other list on the menu items. So I'll just copy this and paste it. I'll just clean this one and clean this one too. And I'll just repeat it 3 times. So 1, yeah. So this is going to be cherry pie with a price of 2.75. We will have a cheesecake with a price of 3.0. And then finally we have cinnamon roll, which is going to have a price of 2.50. So as you can see, the styles is already added, okay, since they have the same class names. Okay, all right, next up, you can give your menu some space between the contents and the sites with various padding. Okay, so when we come to the final page, as you can see, there is some space here. Okay, so there is some space here, and this text is not all the way to the edge of the background. So the way we can do that is by using what we call padding. So we'll say padding left 20 pixels, and as you can see, we have this here, and we do the same on the right with padding right 20 pixels. All right, now on both the left and the right side, we have this space or breathing room for this text. Okay, this looks better. Yeah, it does. Now try to add the same padding, 20 pixels, to the top and bottom of the menu. Okay, so the way we do that is say padding top, and we say 20 pixels, padding bottom, 20 pixels. Okay, all right, now as you can see, we have some spaces on both the top and the bottom. All right, since all four sides of the menu have the same internal spacing, in other words padding, go ahead and delete all the four properties and use a single padding property. Okay, so once again, we don't want to be repeating ourselves unnecessarily. So instead of having padding left, padding right, padding top, padding bottom with the same 20 pixels value, we can just delete everything. Okay, just write padding. Okay, like so, and we give it 20 pixels, and it works the same way as before. So we don't need to, when we are sure that the padding for all four sides, top, bottom, left, and right, are of the same value, then we don't need to write it for each one of them. We just have to write it once and put the value there, and it will automatically be applied to all four sides. Okay. All right, next up, the current width of the menu will always take up 80% of the body, as we've already stated here. On a very wide screen, the coffee and dessert seems far apart from their prices. So let me show you what we mean. So for example, when we scroll to the left like so, you see the item here and their prices here. There is just this large space between them, and it doesn't make it look really good. So we want to fix that, and the way we want to do that is to add a max width. So when we add a max width, the way it's going to work is that the div here can only expand to a certain width, and after that it ceases to expand. So let's do that and see how it looks. All right, so we want to add a max width, and max width of 500 pixels. Okay, so now let's try expanding it again and see what happens. Okay, so we see it is expanding, still expanding. Now you see it ceases to expand. I can continue expanding the background, but this ceases to expand because it has reached its max limit that we gave it, which is 500 pixels. So after 500 pixels, there's no way it's going to expand any further. Okay, all right, let's continue. You can change the font family of text to make it look different from the default fonts of your browser. Each browser has some common fonts available to it. Okay, so as you can see, this text right here is not the same as what we have in our final page. Okay, so in CSS, we have the option to use whatever font that we want. Okay, so the way we change font is to use the property font family. So in our body element, we'll say font family, and then we'll give it a value of sans serif. Okay, all right, so now we have this sans serif font being applied to our text. Next up, yeah, it's a bit boring for all of the text to have the same font family. You can still have the majority of text sans serif and make just the H1 and H2 element different using a different selector. Okay, so we're going to just go ahead and select the H1, bring our comma, and we also select the H2, bring our curly braces, and then we want to give it a font family of impact. Okay, so now as you can see, our headings have a different font family from the rest of the text. And yeah, we are getting really close to the final page. All right, let's continue. Oh wait, there's something wrong. Okay, I think this should be a capital letter. Yeah. All right, so spellings sometimes matters. Okay, so you can add a fallback value for the font family by adding another font name separated by a comma. Fallbacks are used in instances where the initial is not found or available. Okay, so here's the thing. CSS allows us to use whatever font that we want, okay? But sometimes there is the case that the font that we chose is not supported by the user's browser. Okay, so when that happens, CSS has automatic fonts that it will fall back to. But in this case, we can also choose our own fallback font. So in the case where our first option for font is not available on the user's browser, then the second option will be used. So in this case, the fallback font we use is serif, which is really a very common font. So yeah, this is serif, which is really common. And so we use impact and then comma, then write serif. Okay, so finally in this video, we want to make the EST 2020, this text right here, we want to italize it. And the way we italize it is to select it and then give it a font style of with a property italic. Okay, so make the EST text by creating an established class selector. Okay, so create dot established. Okay, and we'll say font style and we'll say italic. All right, but as you can see, it's not yet italicized because we've created a selector here, but inside our HTML, we've not added a class to the element, so we'll not see anything. So let's do that in the next lesson. All right, so I'll end here and see you in the next video where we'll continue with our coffee menu page. All right, see you in the next one.